If Excel freezes the moment you sort or click a filter, the problem is rarely the filter itself. It's usually the sheet doing a huge amount of work behind the scenes. The good news is you can fix it without rebuilding the whole file. First, think of sorting as a stress test. Excel has to read every row, evaluate formulas, expand references, and sometimes redraw objects. On large sheets, one small click can trigger thousands of recalculations. And if your data range is bigger than you think, Excel sorts empty space too. That's why the first goal is to identify what's making your workbook heavy. In this guide, you'll work through the 3 most common causes: oversized used ranges, volatile formulas that recalc constantly, and table bloat from structured references and formatting. You'll also learn a simple troubleshooting order so you change the right thing first. By the end, sorting and filtering should feel normal again: fast, predictable, and stable. Next step. Before you change anything, confirm what slow means in your file. Is Excel not responding for 5 seconds? Or for 2 minutes? Does it happen only when filtering, or also when you paste, scroll, or save? These clues tell you whether the bottleneck is calculation, memory, or drawing. A quick test is to copy the same data into a new, blank workbook and try sorting there. If it becomes fast, your original file has extra baggage, like formatting, names, or links. Next, check if the slowdown happens only on one sheet. If it's one sheet, the issue is usually used range, tables, or objects. If it's every sheet, it's often calculation settings or workbook-level formulas. Also pay attention to whether the freeze happens after you click OK or while you're selecting the sort range. Freezing during selection can point to huge ranges or complex conditional formatting. The point is simple: measure the symptom first, so you don't waste time fixing the wrong layer. Next step. One of the most common hidden problems is an inflated used range. Excel remembers the last cell that ever had content or formatting. If someone formatted an entire column or pasted data far down once, Excel may think your sheet extends to row 1,000,000. Then a sort or filter can involve a massive area, even if most of it looks blank. A practical check is to jump to the last used cell with Control-End. If that lands far beyond your real data, you've found a major cause. The fix is to truly clear the excess. Select the rows below your real data and delete those rows, not just clear contents. Do the same for columns to the right. Then save, close, and reopen the workbook so Excel resets its internal range. This single cleanup often turns a freezing filter into a normal one. It also reduces file size and improves save time. Just be careful not to delete rows that are intentionally reserved for future data entry. Next step. Next, look for table bloat. Excel tables are great, but they can become heavy when they grow huge, contain many calculated columns, or use structured references that pull in more than you expect. Filtering a table forces Excel to evaluate the table's formulas, totals, and sometimes slicers or connected pivots. If your table has dozens of columns with formulas, every filter change can trigger a cascade. A quick test is to copy the table values and paste as values into a separate range, then filter that range. If it's suddenly fast, the table's features are part of the cost. You don't have to abandon tables, but you can slim them down. Remove unnecessary calculated columns, move complex formulas outside the table, and avoid referencing entire table columns when you only need a subset. Also watch for tables that are stacked or overlapping. Even a small overlap can cause Excel to do extra work during sorts. The goal is a table that holds data, not a table that calculates your entire model. Next step. Volatile formulas are another big reason sorting feels like it locks up. Volatile means the formula recalculates more often than you expect, sometimes on every change, including sorts and filters. Common examples are today, now, rand, rand between, offset, and indirect. These are useful, but on large sheets they can turn a simple filter into a full recalculation event. The tricky part is that you might only have a few volatile formulas, but if they feed other formulas, the ripple can be huge. A practical approach is to temporarily replace volatile formulas with stable alternatives. For example, replace offset with index in many lookup patterns. Avoid indirect when a direct reference or a structured reference can work. For timestamps, consider entering a static value instead of now, or calculate it once and store it. If you truly need volatility, isolate it on a small helper sheet and reference the result. The key idea is to control when recalculation happens, so sorting doesn't become a surprise compute job. Next step. Even non-volatile formulas can slow sorting if they're written in a way that forces Excel to scan too much data. The biggest culprit is full column references like AA or one-to-one inside SUMIFs, COUNTIFs, VLOOKUP, or match. On big workbooks, that makes Excel consider over 1 million rows per formula. Multiply that by thousands of cells, and a filter click becomes painful. A better pattern is to reference only the used range, or use tables with well-scoped columns, while still keeping the table lean. Also watch for array formulas that spill across large areas, and for lookups that search entire columns repeatedly. If you can, convert repeated lookups into a single helper column, or use a pivot or Power Query step to pre-aggregate. Another easy win is to replace nested if chains with simpler logic, or with a mapping table and a lookup. You're not just optimizing formulas for speed, you're reducing how much Excel must reevaluate when rows move during a sort. Next step. Calculation mode can make a slow sort feel like a crash. In automatic mode, Excel recalculates whenever it thinks results might change, including after sorts and filters. That's usually fine until the model is heavy. If you switch to manual calculation, sorting often becomes instant, because Excel stops recalculating during the action. The trade-off is you must remember to recalc when you need updated results. A safe workflow is to switch to manual while cleaning and sorting. Then press F9 to recalc when you're done. If you share the file, be cautious. Calculation mode is a workbook setting, and it can confuse other users if they expect values to update automatically. Also, if your workbook contains data connections or pivot refreshes, manual mode can hide stale results. The practical takeaway is to use calculation mode as a diagnostic tool first. If manual fixes the freeze, you've confirmed the core issue is calculation load, not the filter feature itself. Next step. Formatting can also slow sorting, especially conditional formatting. Rules that apply to entire columns or to huge unused ranges force Excel to reevaluate and redraw formatting after rows move. If you have multiple overlapping rules or formulas inside conditional formatting, the cost climbs fast. A quick check is to temporarily remove conditional formatting from the problem sheet and test sorting again. If it improves, you don't need to delete formatting forever. You need to scope it. Limit rules to the actual data range. Prefer simpler rule types over formula-based rules when possible. Also, avoid applying the same rule repeatedly in blocks, because that creates many separate rule objects. Another formatting trap is excessive cell styles and custom formats across large areas. Even if cells look blank, formatting makes them used. Cleaning the used range and cleaning formatting often go together. The goal is to keep formatting intentional and local, so it doesn't become a hidden performance tax every time you filter. Next step. Another overlooked cause is objects, shapes, checkboxes, pictures, comments, and embedded charts. When you sort, Excel may move and redraw these objects, and that can create lag or even a temporary not responding state. This is especially common when objects are set to move and size with cells. If you have many icons, sparklines, or form controls aligned with rows, sorting becomes a graphics operation as well as a data operation. A practical fix is to reduce the number of objects on the main datasheet. Move charts to a separate dashboard sheet. Replace repeated shapes with simpler formatting where possible. For necessary objects, consider setting them to don't move or size with cells, so sorting doesn't force repositioning. Also watch for threaded comments and notes in large volumes. They're useful, but they add overhead. The main idea is simple. Keep your raw data sheet boring. The more decorations it has, the more expensive every sort becomes. Next step. If your data comes from imports, another fix is to stop doing heavy work on the same sheet you filter. Large raw datasets behave better when you separate stages: raw data, clean data, and reporting. Power Query is ideal for this because it loads data in a structured way and can filter, remove columns, and change types before the data hits the grid. Even without Power Query, you can stage your data. Keep the raw dump as values only, then create a smaller working table with only the columns you need for analysis. Sorting 50,000 rows is usually fine. Sorting 50,000 rows with 80 columns, complex formulas, and conditional formatting is where it breaks down. Also consider pre-sorting in the import step, so Excel doesn't have to reorder constantly. The takeaway is to reduce the workload at the source. If the sheet is acting like a database, treat it like one. Store raw data cleanly and build calculations on top. Next step. Sometimes the freeze is caused by hidden workbook features, external links, defined names, or old pivot caches. External links can trigger background checks or updates during recalculation. Defined names can accidentally refer to huge ranges, and formulas that use those names inherit the problem. Pivot caches can also bloat file size, especially if multiple pivots store their own caches. A quick diagnostic is to save a copy of the workbook, then break external links if you don't need them, and retest sorting. Also review Name Manager for names that point to entire columns or massive ranges. For pivots, consider using a shared cache by building pivots from the same source, and delete pivots you no longer need. If you use data model features, be aware they can change memory usage patterns. The point isn't to remove advanced features, it's to remove accidental complexity, things that exist only because the file evolved over time. Cleaning these often makes the workbook feel lighter immediately. Next step. When you're troubleshooting, the order matters. Start with the fastest, safest changes that give big wins. First, fix the used range and remove excess formatting outside your data. Second, test calculation mode to confirm whether recalculation is the driver. Third, identify volatile formulas and full column references and replace them with range-smart alternatives. Fourth, slim down tables and move heavy calculations out of the filtered range. Finally, look at objects, links, names, and pivot caches. After each step, do the same simple test. Apply a filter, clear it, then sort a key column. Time it. If you improve from 60 seconds to 10 seconds, keep going, but don't over-optimize. There's a point where the remaining delay is just the cost of working with large data. Also, keep a backup copy. Performance fixes can change behavior, especially if you replace formulas or break links. The takeaway is a repeatable checklist. You want a method, not guesswork. Next step. To wrap this up, remember what sorting and filtering really do. And don't just rearrange rows. They force Excel to touch a lot of your workbook at once. If the sheet is bloated or formulas recalc too broadly, that single click becomes a workload spike. Your best fixes are also the simplest. Keep the used range tight. Keep formulas scoped to real data. And keep volatile functions on a short leash. Use tables, but don't turn them into calculation engines. And keep raw data separate from dashboards and visuals. If you apply even 2 or 3 of these changes, most freezing filters become manageable again. If you want one quick rule, it's this. Reduce how much Excel must evaluate when rows move. That's the whole game. If this checklist helped, subscribe for more practical Excel performance fixes. And in the comments, which problem hits you more? Volatile formulas or oversized used ranges? Small tweaks compound into massive performance gains. Subscribe to catch the next workflow optimization.